When you have a gut reaction to something, trusting your gut is difficult if your unconscious mind is inherently riddled with guilt, shame, unworthiness, and a fundamental lack of value. Because if that's the case, what you will go do out in your waking everyday life is you will either align with the guilt, shame, unworthiness, and lack of value. You'll like line up with it. Like, I'm just guilty. I'm ashamed. I just exist as bad. Or I don't really have any worth. You'll align with that and just embody that. The other option, and this is really true of so many people coming out of evangelicalism, they fight and war against those beliefs at a conscious level, right? They feel guilt, they feel shame, unworth, no value. Then everything they do is in service of combating that core belief. Rather than releasing the core belief, installing a new core belief that animates and expands your scope and your ability to engage the abundance and love of life, you're stuck consciously trying to ride the bull. It's exhausting. Welcome to the Shadow Mike podcast and YouTube channel, which aims to provide you with language, tools, and guidance in your journey towards personal and relational wholeness. We'll discuss topics ranging from psychology, spirituality, leadership, sexuality, and more. My name is Michael, and I'll be your guide for stimulating musings and host for insightful interviews with thought leaders, practitioners, and experts who have a thing or two to share about living an integrated and meaning-making life. Whether you're looking to deepen your connection with your interior world, overcome challenges in your relationships, or expand your psychosomatic horizons with fresh perspectives and paradigms, the Shadow Mike podcast and YouTube channel offers a safe, playful, yet challenging space for dialogue and introspection. It is all a gift, so let's go enjoy it together. Welcome back to the Shadow Mike podcast and YouTube channel. I'm Dr. Mike Simmons, shadow guide and soul initiator. Hey, if you have been listening and watching for a while, I would love it if you would just pause briefly and go subscribe, go like this channel, go leave a review. Share it with whoever you feel like may benefit from this. This is my medicine for the world. And if it's resonated with you, that's for good reason. And it will likely resonate with others in your world. And my greatest hope, like my most abundant vision, is that this work becomes something that catalyzes you to create community around you that has shared language, a shared curiosity for what's not being talked about, and a shared passion for reimagining spirituality that's authentic and not colonial and top-down disseminated. So pause now, go do that, and we'll pick right back up when you get here. Okay, so I just wrote an article about how the evangelical God still lives in your body, even after you've unattached yourself from evangelicalism. I know that people listening are at different levels of that for very different and complex reasons. You may not be at all connected to the church whatsoever and even consider yourself like agnostic, atheist. You may be someone who still goes to church every Sunday, but you have experienced a deep, unsettled, just like you don't feel at home in it. Maybe you're even like bouncing around at different churches. Regardless of where you are, I want you to tune into your body with this episode. The article I just wrote is available in the show notes. It's on my Substack. You can also go there and subscribe for free. But what I want to focus on in this episode is you tuning in to your own experience. We're going to try to pull away the trappings of theology and language here and get into what you feel in your body at the deepest level, okay? When we leave an institution, a religious organization, a church, we are in some ways consciously detaching from the beliefs, from the structure, from the ideals that community held. However, if you were in it long enough, and let me just say this, it doesn't matter if you were just in the church long enough. There are parts of the country, in the United States in particular, I'm from Tennessee, the culture is dripping with the evangelical worldview, okay? Like, there isn't, you can leave a church, but it's also at the Walmart. You can leave Walmart, and it's also at the Denny's. I don't know. Like, it's at the Shoney's. That's what we had. Shoney's was the buffet after church for lower middle class people, like my family. So it really doesn't matter where you go. If you are in a space that is kind of inundated atmospherically with the common Christian myth, with that evangelical mindset, it's always around you. There's not going to be a church that it's not in, right? There's not going to be a community space in particular that you're not either assuming that framework or really having to work hard against it. So even if you're working hard against it, it still dominates the spiritual landscape, the psychological landscape for you personally, but for everyone. So this is deep work. We're going to take off the theological language just for a moment and move God, the concept of God, into our bodies. Understanding that when I'm saying God from now on in this episode, I am talking about the governing feelings and negative emotions that persist in guiding, distorting, contorting your life. Okay? God, which is the archetypal divine, is a spectrum. It's a continuum, right? So you can experience God as the most positive, benevolent parent, and you can experience God, the archetype, as the most abusive, manipulative parent, okay? So I even want you to notice for a moment that you likely have multiple images of God, right? You have, like, when you think about God, you might have good experiences too, even after leaving the church, actually, most likely, even while you were in the church. You may also have tons of negative experiences that came from the people and the meaning that was made after an experience that are also associated with God. What I'm wanting to look at in this episode is the negative feelings and emotions, that negative pole of the divine that is far more powerful than you've maybe allowed yourself to believe it is, okay? Because when you leave evangelicalism, when you detach from that, you're not really, it's still there. It lives in your body. This is what Jung said. Jung said, the gods have become diseases. Zeus no longer rules Olympus, but rather the solar plexus, and produces curious specimens for the doctor's consulting room. He said that in Modern Man in Search of a Soul. And this is, as a shadow work coach, this is what I see all the time. People come to me with symptoms, with diseases, with dis-ease. There is a lack of ease, a lack of just a sense of feeling present and available for life. Life is very narrow. They've chosen the narrow path because it was said that was the way towards abundance. And what got conflated was that they needed to narrow themselves. The narrow path is really just the expansiveness within that very few people choose. Very few people choose the path of authenticity, the path of abundance that's already inside of them. The broad path is the path of just kind of literally going with the flow around you. Freud would call that the superego. The superego is kind of the internalized collective narratives, beliefs, and expectations. And that's the easy thing to do. That's the easy thing to do, is to follow that path. The narrow path that Jesus famously, whether he said it or not, famously directed us towards, is something that is so unique and authentic to us that doesn't disconnect us from the collective, connects us at a deeper level than we could ever possibly imagine. So, when we talk about God, when we talk about the devil, there's your split, there's your spectrum. The negative, the devil; the positive, the God. Of course, they're conflated because it's a mind fuck in evangelicalism. But let's just call it this unnameable dis-ease. The unnameable dis-ease. It likely is feels like guilt. It could feel like shame. It could feel like unworthiness. It could feel like a fundamental lack of value. Okay? These are your core limiting beliefs, the core compulsive, automatic energizers of action and behavior, or inaction. These are the things that govern our solar plexus, that govern our gut, that make us compulsively do things we don't really want to do consciously, but in some ways it doesn't matter what we consciously want to do. I often have clients, when they come and they kind of, share or confess their dis-ease that they have around the divine, they'll immediately follow it with a positive statement of, well, but I don't really think that. That's not how I actually think about God. Okay. And I'm like, yes, 100%. Consciously, you don't think about yourself that way. You don't think about God that way. But unconsciously, you are driven by the opposite of what you consciously believe. I said in an Instagram post, which, by the way, go follow me on Instagram, dr.shadow.mike. Okay. I said on an Instagram post yesterday that when it compared it to Newton's third law of motion, right? Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. The same is true for our psyches. Everything that is in our unconscious has an equal and opposite reaction in our consciousness, in our presentation of ourselves, right? We're talking about persona and shadow in this case, right? So if you, let's say consciously, have this belief that God is all-loving and all-powerful, but there is this stirring sense that that's just not the case, unconsciously, it really does not matter what's happening up here consciously. What matters is what's happening unconsciously. And this is because your unconscious mind is, let's use a metaphor here, of like you holding a what's it called? A microscope. It's like microphone? No, I have a microphone. You're holding a microscope, okay? Is it a microscope? Magnifying glass. That's what I want to do. I want to do a magnifying glass because it's a bit more dynamic. So you're holding a magnifying glass, and your unconscious self is you, and your conscious self is the magnifying glass. So it really doesn't matter what you want to have or want to do with the magnifying glass. The magnifying glass, in some ways, is going to go wherever the unconscious mind, or in this case, in the metaphor, you go. If you want to look at this at that unconscious level, that's what you're going to look at. And it's what you're going to find, right? If you go looking for something, you're going to find it. You're going to focus your time, energy, and attention on that thing. And everything else fades away. So if your unconscious mind is set to search for something, it is, I don't know, millions of times more powerful than your conscious mind. Now, your conscious mind is more powerful in the sense that it can focus. It can see things when it's directed that it otherwise couldn't see. But it is driven, steered, ruddered by the unconscious mind. And that's what Jung means when he says that God lives in the solar plexus. Zeus lives in the solar plexus, which, by the way, the evangelical God image is a doppelganger of Zeus. The all-powerful, lightning striking, but like kind of coy, but a little bit unhinged Zeus character. That energy lives in your body, in the center of your gut. That's why we think of it as the unconscious as being down here. Okay, when you have a gut reaction to something, trusting your gut is difficult if your unconscious mind is inherently riddled with guilt, shame, unworthiness, and a fundamental lack of value. Because if that's the case, what you will go do out in your waking everyday life is you will either align with the guilt, shame, unworthiness, and lack of value. You'll like line up with it, be like, yeah, I'm just guilty. I'm ashamed. I just exist as bad. Or I don't really have any worth. I don't have any value. You'll align with that and just embody that, and people will see it. I mean, people who are just that. Like, they just look like they're carrying the weight of badness. Okay. The other option is, and this is really true of so many people coming out of evangelicalism, they fight and war against those beliefs at a conscious level, right? They feel guilt, they feel shame, unworth, no value, because you're taught that, first of all. But then everything they do is in service of combating that core belief. Rather than releasing the core belief, installing a new core belief that animates and expands your scope and your ability to engage the abundance and love of life, you're stuck consciously trying to, ride the bull. It's exhausting. I know this. I mean, it lives in my body, this experience of wrestling this divine energy at the conscious level, trying to get it to not, buck me or pull me this direction or pull me that direction. And I spent years of my adolescence and young adulthood doing that very thing, as you'll read in the article that I wrote more extensively on this topic. So, I invite you, just if you want to pause, but I invite you to take a moment and ask the question, what is it you believe at the deepest level? And when I say guilt, let's say even unnameable anxiety, right? Start there if you need to. Guilt, shame, unworthiness, a fundamental lack of value. What is living down there? What is the nuclear reactor, the core that gives life and energy and drains life and energy to your life? What is just automatic? When something happens, when you get a bit of bad news, where do you go? What story is readily available inside of you that is just like tried and true? Your unconscious mind has two jobs. The first job is to keep you safe and to make you right about what you believe at the deepest level. And if you believe something unconsciously, then your unconscious mind being far more powerful than your conscious mind, it will look for ways to make you right about that. Because that also serves the other goal that the unconscious mind has, which is to keep you safe. And what you know is safe is what you will find reflected back to you to keep you safe. you have to be right about that in order to stay safe. So you will unconsciously align yourself and connect to people, experiences, beliefs that keep that all intact. Lisette King, my coach and mentor in this work, I can't even say what it is because she's just like, she's a ninja. Literally, she's an emotional ninja. She said, anything that you've survived is survivable. So if you've survived something, then it is a known category which you can survive again. What is not known is if you can survive the thing you want. The goodness, the abundance, the authenticity, the alignment, the larger amount of money that you is yours, that you want to claim, that you want to move toward, the more authentic relationship, marriage, like that isn't known. And if your unconscious ultimately is in a state of protection, then goodness is going to be avoided at all costs, because goodness is badness. Goodness is bad. Bad is known, and it keeps you safe and it makes you right. So you'll just keep deviating back over here, right? You'll have a moment like, oh, I'm on my way. I'm going towards what I always wanted. And then you'd start drifting back, right? Because the unconscious mind is also like a current, a riptide, and it will pull you back to what you know to be true, okay? There's so much to explore here. Now, I have really thrown some shade at the unconscious mind. But just like the shadow, it is not bad. Your unconscious mind is your friend, okay? And your unconscious mind can be reworked. It can be, it's an operating system that is highly powerful. You can uninstall that operating system, and you can install a new, better, and more aligned operating system. Here's the example I've used recently. If you're driving down the road and a car swerves into your lane, like oncoming, before you consciously think about it, your unconscious mind will jerk the wheel out of the way for safety. You didn't think about that. You didn't create that impulse. That is what your body did because it knew what to do to be safe. You need, your unconscious mind has saved you more times than you know. And how funny, right? Because this is often ascribed to God. I don't know. God just took the wheel, very Carrie Underwood. Is that her? But Jesus take the wheel is really this desire for the unconscious to cooperate with what you really want. What is this higher calling, this higher draw and intuition? In Huna, we would call that the higher self. What is this higher ideal, fullness that you're really drawn to, and you consciously, that's for you. But your unconscious may not be cooperating with you because it sees that as actually unsafe. So your unconscious mind will do what it needs to do to keep you safe and to make you right about what you believe at the deepest level. And you got the beliefs that you have now because they were installed. They were installed. You weren't born with the beliefs you have about God being punitive or about the universe just kind of having a certain suspicion of you. Just this general sense that the universe is I don't know. I'm pretty sure he's a piece of shit. You weren't born with that. That was installed. And a lot of it gets installed before you have any ability to consent to it. But you can go back right now, ask your unconscious mind, when was the moment that I began participating with that installment and reaffirming and reasserting those beliefs? When did I start doing that? I have a specific memory of when I started doing that. And once I figured out That was the moment where I aligned myself with the unconscious belief that love was unsafe, that purity would gain love and acceptance for me. Like, it changed everything. So you can install a new operating system. And I'm starting my certification process in what's called NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. And within that world, there's also something called mental and emotional release, MER. And I'm going to kind of walk you through the steps that you can take just to begin investigating this work. Now, you don't have to go deep. In fact, what I would say is, if this resonates with you, schedule a shadow work mapping call. Let's chat and see what kind of magic we can create together. I offer a 3-month container that is meant to initiate you into the next phase of life. It's $5,200. So breathe that in for a moment, because that number is a symbol. It's not a price. It's a symbol of transformation. The number 5 is all about, like, we're going a different direction. It is a new beginning. It is like out with the old, in with the new. And 2 is all about connection and community and relationships. And as you hear that number, I want you to feel into your body that draw. That number is also initiation for you. The initiation begins the moment you even consider that. Okay, so that's a little side plug there. Investigate it, look at it. Let's schedule a mapping call to see if it's a good fit. So, mental and emotional release work. There is a book here. I'll hold it up if you're watching. But it's Mental and Emotional Release by Dr. Matt James. And within MER, there's what's known as the 4 requisites of change. Okay, and I'll just overview them real quick. The first is release. The second is setting a new intention or perspective. The third is to take action, and the fourth is to focus. Okay, so release work is essentially identifying the core negative emotion, limiting belief that isn't necessarily the most energetic. It is, according to MER, the earliest, the one that kind of switched on that belief system, that negative emotion, that belief you have. It often may not even be conscious. The first time I did this work with my coach, it was not conscious. But something shifted in me to where, like, that doesn't have the generating power that it used to. I'm still doing the other steps, the other 3 requisites. But once you do that release work, the release work is gone, or the belief is gone. Now it's about installing the new thing. Okay. So when you do the release work, it's asking your unconscious mind to identify the core limiting belief. Your unconscious mind is the container of all your memories. Inside Out did a great job depicting that, like all those little spherical balls with all the different emotions. That is what your unconscious mind does. It stores all of that. So you don't need to even really know it. You just need to give permission to your unconscious mind to find it and to bring it up. Because again, your unconscious mind is your ally, your friend, your most powerful companion, right? And it's like I don't know, think about like a protagonist and like their really like big sidekick, you know, that's walking with them, that tends to actually have, that looks kind of dumb and fumbly, but is actually like wildly intuitive and wise. That's your unconscious mind. So ask your unconscious mind what that core limiting belief is, how old you were, and trust your intuition to let that just surface. Speak it out. Write it out. Okay? And truly release work is embodied. Like, move your body. When you feel that, what that belief is, what that emotion is, move your body in an aligned and intuitive way that allows you to move that energy out of your body. Lean into the wisdom that your unconscious mind already has and let it just flow, right? You don't need to do anything more with it consciously. You just need to trust that it's releasing, okay? Once you have, one other piece to this, like the release work doesn't have to be highly emotional. It might be, but it doesn't have to be highly emotional. It just needs to happen, right? It's a big shift that happens mostly unconsciously. And then you start to work the shift up into your conscious mind. The second requisite is to set a new intention or perspective. Set a positive intention or goal that you want to move toward. And it is enough to say, I'm setting an intention that I'm moving toward. But no, and this is kind of an important reframing, you're not moving toward it as much as you're now pulling that which was in the future into the present, okay? This intention, this new intention, is the life you keep wanting but not getting. It's the life that you keep casting out in front of you that you're going to have one day. It is the hopes, dreams, and ways that you just want to exist in the world that resonate with you deeply but feel unreachable. You keep getting excited about it, and then you try to take action, and you try to focus in on it, and it's like, and then you get excited about it, you have another cathartic experience, and then it's like, drops out again. Once you do that, it's because the release work hasn't happened. You've got to do that release work, and then set the new intention, and now you can start moving that that new life toward you, pulling it like a mime would pull another mime toward them, right? Okay. This is trusting that inner compass that's just guiding you. Trusting that is essential. Okay. This is a moment where you will likely feel and have felt, you've done this before, you've had the altar call and you've recommitted your life. There's your framework if you've come out of that kind of Christianity. Altar call, rededication, okay, big excitement. You spoke in tongues. Everyone was super pumped. It took you out to Shoney's again. And there's a lot of potential energy there, right? You may revel in the abundance of what's possible. Okay? But here's the thing. The third step is where the rubber meets the road and where I can speak to this personally. Things get off track because I set the new intention and then I may take a little bit of action, but as soon as I start hitting roadblocks or obstacles, I start to think, no, I can't hold on to it. It doesn't feel so energetic anymore. Well, guess what? The old belief, the old negative emotions start to come back, and you reinstall those because, again, you have to have some kind of orienting belief. And the old one is the one you know. The old one is the one that fits perfectly into that God-shaped hole in your heart. It just fits. It's already been integrated for so long, and welcoming it back is like, it's the devil you know. It's the God you knew versus the one that you want, the divine energy that you really want. So taking action. I read this in a book yesterday, and I can't recall which one, but it was maybe a few days ago. It said something about like if you're going, like if say you're in your house. I'm adding to this metaphor. It works better for me. You're in a large house, couple story house, and the lights go off. And you're in the upper right part of the house, and the electrical box is in the basement on the lower left side of the house. Okay. When you start moving and the lights are all off, it's dark, you need the power on, you start moving through the house. and you bash your knee on the coffee table, or you almost trip down the stairs because you thought it was a little bit further, but you stepped too late or whatever. And now you're like, you have that slip down the steps as your first step, and all that adrenaline rushes, right? Because you thought you were about to fall down the steps. Those experiences, the obstacles, the really negative charges that you experience when you're taking action are not signals that you're doing something wrong. They are signals that you're moving. They are signals that you are on your way to that energetic box that will illuminate your life. But it's often couched, especially in the common Christian myth and evangelicalism, like these are signs that maybe this is not what God wants you to do, so you don't do it. Especially if it's intuitive, right? It's funny how in the Christian myth, in the common Christian myth, there's like obstacles in your way when you're on your way to some sort of esoteric obedience are usually the enemy. But obstacles that get in your way when you're on your path to something that is like freedom and like expression and abundance, it's like, well, that's usually God saying, find all of that in me, actually. Come back to me. I will be your source. It's a mind fuck. Jesus. Like, okay. So taking action, you will hit obstacles. You won't have the euphoria of having just spoken in tongues at Shoney's or whatever. You will have trials and tribulations. I'm really getting preachy and weavy here with the scriptures, but you will encounter that. But that is a moment where you can reframe how you think about that and say, that's a sign I'm on my way. I'm on my way because I'm encountering those. It's the death rattle that you've probably seen influencers or people talk about with like patriarchy or capitalism. It's like when something is about to die, it starts to really throw shit at you. It's the dark side of the Force in Star Wars. Right before one of the Siths are defeated, they get really powerful and activated. That's what's happening. All of that's just getting activated. And the language that's been so transformational for me is this stuff is coming up not against you, but for you. You can see it as an enemy that you have to overcome. You can see it as a Sith Lord that you have to defeat. Or you can see it as just all of the stuff that's always been there that's now coming up into your face and is now available to be taken out. It's baggage, right? It's trash. It's stuff it's refuse that needs to be sent out, that is not good for you, and it is a gift that it's coming up. So those obstacles are a gift and a signal that you're on your way, and they don't have to be, it's not like the operating system is like coming back in. The operating system coming back in would look like you saying, I'm going to go back and sit down, and just sit in the darkness. You are encountering those in order for those to be released and to continue moving towards your path, towards illumination. The fourth step is focus, and I kind of alluded to it already, but focus is it's the decision to continue moving towards that energetic source. It's doing the new habits, the new actions. So I'll give you an example. In a lot of the work I've been doing, one of the habits, it's not uncommon, but it's reeling out on Instagram, just like looking at shit for no reason. I mean, I'm playing out, like I'm watching people get blown up or car crashes or Karens having crash outs at restaurants. Like, what am I doing? And then I couldn't stop doing it. I was like, I'm just continuing to do that. Part of doing that was, it was essentially disconnecting me from the journey from, upstairs to the electrical box. I was pausing long enough to forget what I was doing. Those reels were a way of literally taking the energy I had moving forward and grounding it, and almost like just getting stuck again, just in a different part of the house. You can let those things go and create better habits. They don't have to even be spiritual. They can be. For me, I replaced doom scrolling with reading. And I don't like to read. I'm not a huge fiction fan. I don't engage with it well. The symbols, the characters, the metaphors, I already have so many stories inside of my body. I don't need more out here. I like watching movies with them and then kind of playing with them. But I read basically books about concepts. I love nonfiction. I love learning because it gives me a framework for the absolute mythological landscape that's already happening. But I kept telling myself, I'm not going to pick that book up for 5 minutes because I will get into it and then I won't want to read it. So I'll just watch reels. Well, then I started doing it. And then I realized, I can read for a few minutes and put it down. I can connect to something in there that will energize me. And I realized that doing that is not about me reading a book. I've been in higher ed for a long time. I've done my doctorate. So I've got to really grasp all of this. Reading those books, reading a page, 2 pages, 3 pages for a second, has helped me to just continue to maintain a cord, a tether to the journey I'm on. And when I do that 3, 4, 5 times in a day, when I would have been reeling out, it doesn't create a overwhelming sense that I've got to pull from this book all of the juice that it has. It literally just connects me to myself. It connects me to the path I'm on towards that source energy, towards that new life. So you're moving through the house. You run into the obstacles, and those obstacles are not signals that you're off your path. They're signals that you're on your way. And you focus in on the intention that you've set to go find that source. And you continue to move. You continue to take action. That's what focusing is all about. And even the release work you do after that initial release work is not big. It doesn't have to be the big thing again. It's like the first release work was like an episode of Hoarders, where you had a team of people just going through your house and throwing literally everything away and cleaning it all up. That's what that first one is. The rest of your release work is the ongoing everyday work of taking out the trash. When things come up, when you run into an obstacle and you have a big energetic surge, that's release work. And that's also part of the focusing. And then you do that release work, you come back to that intention. Maybe the intention shifts. You might have multiple intentions at different levels. It's helpful when you can understand that all those different intentions are around a single intention, and kind of a meta intention. But you focus in on that intention, and then you take action again. You get back on the horse. You continue to move your body. The original beliefs that no longer serve you got installed, not from sitting in a pew and having it lodged into your brain. That helped. But those original beliefs got lodged in there through action, through things you did, through things you didn't do that you wanted to do, that you felt drawn to do, but you didn't do them. The original operating system is rooted in from embodied actions and inactions. And so the new operating system has to be installed through actions and inactions. Your body keeps the score, but your body holds the supercomputer of your unconscious mind. Rewiring it requires you to do things that you haven't done, and to keep doing them in ways that for a longevity and a certain level of focus that you haven't done either. Okay, And I'll just say this, like, I could not do that without a coach. I could not. I needed a guide. I need a guide. In fact, I'm invested in 2 different containers with 2 different coaches right now who are supporting me in this work. And it's installed in me the reality that, like, I'm going to want that in the future too. I may not need the intensity of having someone that I'm meeting with and able to message, anytime. But I know that is something that when I encounter a threshold, I need to move through something, I'm gonna reach out for a coach. I'm gonna reach out for a guide who has been there, who has done that, and can guide me deeper and deeper. So if this resonates with you and you're like, yeah, I've had the big release, I've had the big intention at some point, but I always get stuck in the action and the focus. That's literally what I do. I used to see myself as a shadow work coach that I'm open to meeting with anyone. I'm open to meeting with anyone who is ready to step into the liminal threshold of transformation. There's something that is for you, but there's something that you have to walk through in order to get to it. And you intuitively know that it will cost you something. It costs you something, absolutely. In fairy tales, if you want to cross the bridge, you usually have to bring back something ridiculous for the troll. I guess I'm the troll, maybe. I'm like whoever's on the other side of the bridge. The troll on the bridge is within you. The thing you've got to bring forward that the troll has asked you to go search for is inside of you. And it's not something that you're sacrificing to be killed. It's something that you're sacrificing that has been prohibiting you. It's a belief. The thing the troll asks you to bring back, it's the valuable thing that it's the safety mechanism. It's the belief that you can't create your life, that you can't ask for what you need, that you can't have and create energy in abundance. You can. You absolutely can. And so are you willing to sacrifice the belief that you can't? And if your answer is yes, even if it's like, yes, close your eyes and like, yeah, then you're there. You're on the bridge and you're ready to cross over into that new landscape, into that whole new way of existing and rooting your life into soil that can create that abundance, just the flow of it. It's ready for you. So if you feel drawn to that, schedule a mapping call with me, message me, DM me, email me, and let's start a conversation and see what kind of journey we can step into together. We know that the path will wind you towards yourself and towards the source energy that you keep longing for, that you keep desiring, and I want to help you find it and require it for your life. Hi, Michael here. Hey, seriously, thank you for listening and engaging the Shadow Mike podcast and YouTube channel. I trust today's episode gave you something to reflect on or illuminated a new trailhead to your hidden life. If this episode resonated with you, you can subscribe, leave a comment or review, and share it with your people. This really helps spread the word and boost our digital presence. Remember, growth isn't a straight line, and we're all figuring it out as we go. I'm grateful to be in this unfolding and excavating work with you. Until next time, be yourself. You've got a good self. And remember, it is all a gift.